Welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Our schedule's been a little bit elongated, but as I mentioned in earlier videos, hard to get motivated. It's summertime, a lot of time spent outside, and not a lot of motivation to sit inside of my pen room, even though it is air conditioned and quite comfortable. But, I still enjoy doing videos, and this is one that a number of viewers have asked for. This is the Lingmo Lorelei 691 in red, which I did a review on and talked about how unique the nib was. And people recommended I put a zebra nib in, and I happen to have some. These I bought on eBay. They're the titanium coated ones, for what it's worth. I've thoroughly cleaned this in soapy ammonia water. I've read before that some dip nibs have some challenges with residue on them. Some people use a flame to get rid of the residue, but I'm not going to do that since this is a titanium coated one, so I don't want to really discolor it. So we're going to pop off the nib that's in there now. I'm going to write with the nib, obviously, before we do the swap, and we'll do the swap during the course of this video. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and hopefully when we're all done, I'll enjoy this zebra nib in the Lorelei pen. So what I've been doing a lot recently, well, as I said, I've been a little bit lacking some motivation. But I do have 4 pens on their way to me, and 2 of them already arrived in country and are making their slow way from clearing customs to being delivered to my door. I got a Wingsung 670, which I will call a yellow Centennial pen. I just thought it looked cool. Price was good. Medium nib, should be nice. And then I got a Wingsung 699, which is a piston filler. The original 699 was a vac filler. I got it in the dark blue translucent color, so I think, a color I don't have. And I think from my perspective, I prefer the piston filler to the vac filler. Simpler operation, as far as I'm concerned, more reliable, dependable, and probably holds about the same amount of ink. Those 2 were from eBay. And then perusing Etsy, I saw that the Fulluin 017, which I really like that pen, comes in some new colors. So here's one that I ordered. They called it purple green. Looks interesting. The other colors also look a little different from mine, but we'll start with the purple green one. And then, I haven't had a Moonman New Moon pen for a while, and this one looked pretty nice, and obviously we're going to get it with a bent nib. I'm going to watch the Lingmo twirl around. Let's zoom in a little bit and see if we can get some of that interesting acrylic and see how Mr. Crab is doing. And there's that nib I'm going to try. So I've written a number of letters with this pen, and I've gotten to like it. The downside is occasionally the nib that's in the pen will catch on paper, and you'll get some paper caught in the nib. And that even happens on Tomoe River paper, which is, to me, amazing because that's pretty soft. Sorry, Tomoe River paper is pretty smooth, and I have never had any nibs problems with it before. And I also did on Rhodia, Clairefontaine, so that's a challenge with the nib. 99% of my strokes are fine, but at a certain angle, at a certain direction, it'll catch paper, and that's not really a fun thing to do. So I'll show you this nib, how it works now, and then we'll throw in the zebra nib and see if what some viewers have said, it should work. Mr. Crab is going to come around and say, bye, I'm tired of holding up the pen. So here's the writing test that I did with the pen initially. And it was scratchy, and I did the most smoothing I've ever done on a nib with different grits, and I went to my diamond nail file, which can really remove a lot of metal, and it was all done, eventually became smooth. I would never really call this a flex nib. I'm hoping that the zebra nib will give me more flex. And it was a wet writer, and this Noodler's Burgundy is a slow drying ink with a lot of Noodler's inks are. So let's write with this again after I've written with it for a while and have done my smoothing. So I did this writing with the microphone next to the paper, and this nib is now usable, and it wasn't when I first got it. Don't know how to spell usable, but now it is. And it does spread a little bit, and it's still kind of wet after a few minutes. So now we're going to pull the nib and see how well the zebra fits. I'm working over a tripod, so we'll see how well this turns out. This is a nice resin. I've gotten to really enjoy this pen. Section's just big enough. It would be nice if it was a millimeter larger diameter. And as you can see, the nib does bear a striking resemblance to the zebra nib, including that raised letter there at the bottom, that long slit, but the zebra nib has some cutouts in it that this one doesn't have, and it's a thinner shoulder, which obviously usually says that the nib is going to have more flex to it, and you can see that opens up pretty good. So these are my lobster grips, which I still use. And we're going to grip it on the side. I try to stay away from the fins because of those experiences with pen BBS. And I just do a pull and a slight twist, and as you can see, it comes out very easily. I'm not going to get ink all over everything. We're going to clean this up and put the zebra nib in. So the first challenge we're going to be faced with is, this is the Lingmo nib here on the right and the zebra nib here on the left. As you can see how wide this nib is, and it's much wider than the zebra nib. And if you look at it from the side view, you'll see how it's spread out a little bit more. So the challenge you're going to have is when you put this on the feed, this is the more narrow than the feed is, so I don't know whether it's going to fit well. We're just going to give it a shot, and maybe it will distort because these nibs are fairly stiff but do have some flexibility to it. Hopefully I don't break the pen, which is always a possibility. I could also try to open this up with some pliers and put pressure on it, but let's just try this without that first. So as I feared, that nib will not seat on that feed because the feed is too wide, and that concave curve of the nib is not going to ever seat on that feed. Not a good fit, which is what the challenges I've had in the past with trying to use these types of dip nibs in regular pens. But since I have a bunch of these nibs, let me play around and see if I can open up that curvature by just putting some pressure on it. I've done as much adjustment as I'm comfortable trying to do to get this to fit. And there's still that gap there, and the tines are now starting to not line up. Because as you start to bend this nib, it starts to lose its original shape, and with the way these cutouts are in it. So to me, you're going to have to modify a feed for this zebra nib to fit. I know people put them into Jinhaos, and kudos to them. Just not something that's in my wheelhouse. And also, how much effort and time and energy do you want to put into it? You can see that that feed seems to be fairly flexible. I tried to use some rounded jewelry pliers to get in there, and I'm not going to muck with it anymore. We're going to put it back together with the original nib and leave it at that. So I put back in the original nib. You can see how well it contours to the feed. And I'm not going to play around with it. And it writes great like it did before. And I'll just live with that little scratchiness. I might do some more fine-tuning and grinding and smoothing on the nib, but like I said, for the majority of the writing, I'm quite happy with the pen. It's gone through a few fills. It's been in a few letters that have gone out to some pen pals. So that's the end of this video. Obviously, I never stay satisfied, so I did some searching and I found a Jinhao 450 with a zebra nib in it on AliExpress, and I ordered it. Who knows how long it'll take to get here, but I'm looking forward to see how they use that nib and what feed they used, and we'll show you how it writes when I get it. Sorry there was no success, but for those of you that had thoughts about putting a zebra nib in here, be my guest. Sorry I couldn't give you some better tidbits on it, but it's not something that I'm going to be doing. So may you have many great writing experiences. Explore your world of pens and inks and paper and start putting some marks down. Yeah, sharing them, sending a letter out. Hope you all can stay safe, healthy, and happy. So this is the end. We're going to say bye until the next video.